I got tricked. Pam said it was going to be me, her, and 3 other people. It's not the truth. It's all the rest of y'all here too. I hope that whatever I say right now, because I got tricked by Erlinda too, it's going to be on TV. And I didn't mean to be on TV in front of a bunch of y'all. I just meant to come down, say a couple of words, say hi to my friend, Pastor Bratton.
All right, sir.
And then go home. I brought all these books, though. I brought the books to share with the young people and to remind some of the older people why you're here in the first place. And I guess if you were to look at that, you would say that that is called history. You know, when you look back at something, it's easy. But here's the challenge for all of us. Do you actually know what history is? And then when I put it into context and I say, you know what black history is? And then I have to say to you all history is not good. But I have to look up here at some words I wrote in the room back there, and they're on the wall already. So if you don't mind, I'm going to turn my back for just a second, just to remind you of some stuff that's already here. So, and it's called history. And when I say history in this context, it means that it's a reminder. Look up there, Greater Faith Grace Bible Church.
Yes, sir.
Seeing the impossible, but believing the possible.
Yes, sir.
When you see the impossible, from a standpoint, there's a guy, his name was Enoch. And there was this other lady, her name was Anna. In the Bible, Enoch was the father of who? Nashon. Wow. No, is that the right one? No. He's that guy that lived forever, for a long time, right? He lived for like 365 years. What was his name? Well, y'all should have said that before I said Meshach. You gotta know your history so that people can't fool you somewhere down the road. But before they can do all of that, you gotta know God. Jesus Christ has to be right here and in here so that people can't trick you about what's happening. We talked a little bit. I stayed here for, what was it called? Bible study? What was that this morning? Sunday school! See, even old people have to go to Sunday school too, because you gotta keep up. Now he started looking at me, and he was talking about a few things, and I was in there, and I was thinking, well, what am I going to say? And Erlinda brought it home for me. She said to me, just say, what did you say? She said, just say whatever's on your heart. Because I asked her about the 2 different things. And what's on my heart is talking about history from this perspective, black history.
All right.
Black history starts with Enoch and Anna in actuality. Anna prophesied that Jesus Christ was going to be born. What did we talk about in this morning? We talked about Isaiah and what Isaiah was prophesying about Jesus being born. So I'm going to say this to you. Seeing the impossible, but believing the possible.
Yes, sir.
Watch this. This calendar says that today is February the 9th. Now, somebody made a calendar, and they made the calendar so we would have a reference point to go back to. When we get back to church from where we've been, let's say we've been on vacation, we missed a Sunday, we missed 2 Sundays, we missed 3 Sundays, we missed 10 Sundays, we missed 25 years of Sundays, and we come back to church, and we hear the choir start to talk a little bit. We hear the choir sing our favorite song. And we hear the choir say 2 things that reach us. He is worthy. Is that what you just said?
Yes,
he is worthy. So I'm going to say these things to you. I have to tell you about my background so you'll know that it's possible. I have to tell you about my background so that you know that you can believe it. There are 3 words I want you to remember. The first one starts with a C, the second one starts with a B, and the last one starts with an A. And all these words are very simple. And in our, oh my goodness, in Sunday school this morning, I don't know names, but the brother said this: God likes to keep it simple. So I'm going to keep it simple. Conceive it, believe it, you can achieve it. And how do we know that? We know that because there's been some impossible examples before us. I'm going to go through a couple of things, and I'm going to say it like this. I don't have to say all the names, but I'm going to say a few of them. There's this book that I have. I collect Black History Month's paraphernalia all the time. This book is the Encyclopedia of African American Heritage. It shows a whole bunch of people and what they did and how they did it. Nah, not so much how they did it. It just shows the end result. Think about that. That's what history is. It just shows you the end result. Here's another book. It says black first. In this book, you'll find out all these people who did it first. My background. So I'm the first black, I guess, director of community services for the city of Rialto. I'm the first one. Now imagine the city of Rialto has been around since 1911 or 1921, but I'm the first black one, right? This book says, we shall overcome. Well, I think about in the 50s and the 60s, and I think about Rosa Parks. And Rosa Parks sat down in 1950, whatever it was. She sat down in a bus and said, I'm not going to move. She sat there. She went to jail for sitting down. Now imagine this. You come to church, and somebody says, you can't sit there. You got to go sit in the back, or you got to sit up at the top where all the black folks sit. They sit up there at the top. Guess what? Rosa Parks sat down on the bus, and people went to church and they didn't have to sit up there. Oh, y'all didn't remember that? That in the movie theaters that we had to sit up in the top, we couldn't be there the same? Oh, never mind. Y'all This book right here says, going for the gold. What this book has is a lot of women who made gold medal history. There's a lady by the name of Althea Gibson. Althea Gibson was the first black woman to win the Wimbledon. Okay? I met this lady, she was a track star. I can't remember her name now, but I think her name was Wilma Rudolph. I think that was her name. When I was in high school, I met this lady, her name was Wilma Rudolph. I didn't know who she was. She was just a lady up there trying to help us learn how to do track. But she inspired all those that came behind her. I don't know if you guys heard of this lady. Her name was Florence Griffith Joyner, and this other lady, Jackie Joyner Kersey. Well, they got gold medals. And then there are these that are still getting gold medals today because they had somebody to do what? Precede them. Jesus Christ is who we have preceding us. And he's also covering us. And we talk about that today. And I started thinking, isn't that wonderful that we have something to look back upon? Yes. But all we really have is what has already happened. That's what history is. We don't know who in this church, talking about the little ones right there, is going to be somebody that everybody knows about. We don't even know who this guy is talking to us right now, but we heard he had an Emmy. For what? Right? There's only one thing that I live on this earth for, and that's to serve God. And when God calls you to do anything, we talked about that. What was it? The Spirit of God. How you hear it, it makes a difference. He left. Where'd he go? So he said this. Is that Reverend Richards? He was right there. So what he said was this. He said he's going to make a right-hand turn, but the Spirit of God told him to make a left. So he made the left because the Spirit of God was talking to him. But he wanted to make the right. He said if he had made the right turn, he probably would have had the accident that he saw that was there in the right turn. Sometimes God pulls you in the direction you need to go, and you say, I don't want to go there. Sometimes when God says you need to go, you need to not even listen to what anything else is happening. The radio might be on, kids might be talking to you, people might be pulling you down, whatever it happens to be, go where God told you to go. Your wife, your significant other, your best friend, they can't go with you. You're going by yourself. You were born by yourself. But let me tell you something, between what is that called? Birth and death, there's a whole lot of living in between. That living in between needs to mean something to you. That living in between becomes your, history. That's what we're talking about. So let's talk about some of the women in gold that I just want to give you some names here because I want to tell you something. There's a lady named Leslie Allen. During the down times, I just worked harder and never stopped believing. That's what Leslie Allen said. I don't know if you guys know who Leslie Allen was, but before there was a Venus and Serena, there was a Leslie Allen. Isn't that something? But you don't hear about some of the people that don't make it to the top. But they do. I don't know if you guys remember, but there's a lady named Zena Garrison. Okay, so Zena Garrison played tennis too. Just pointing that out to you. But that's history. She's not playing tennis anymore. She's doing something else. So I won an Emmy, right? I'm not in television entertainment anymore. I'm doing something else. And that something else is still the same thing I did when I first started, working for God. And when God said, this is going to be, it's funny to me now, but it wasn't back then. My mother said, you never know what you can do until you actually go out and try it. But she said this, she said, go to college first and then you try the other thing. Because she said this, I want to be a stand-up comic. Yeah, I want to tell jokes for a living. I made $5,000 one time. I'll tell you about that later. But So I wanted to be a stand-up comic, but I had this scholarship to go to the University of Southern California. My mother said, you never know what you can do until you actually go out and try it. So she said this, do the comedy and go to school, get your degree. So I was more interested in the comedy because that was going to make me rich and famous. It was going to make me rich and famous. I saw all the other people, I thought I was funnier than them, and I said, this is going to make me rich and famous. So I need to be able to buy my mother a house. I need to get on TV and say, hi, Mom. I need to be able to get on TV and say, all you haters that didn't think I was going to make it, here I am. But at the end of the day, none of those haters and none of that meant anything when the knock came that said, we need you back at home. And where was home? It was the city of Compton, California. We need you back at home because there's some things happening in the city that we want to take care of. We need somebody like you to help take care of those. And I said, but that's what I did. I stuttered. I said, I'm a comic. I just tell jokes. Well, come and tell some jokes then. So I ended up in a city called Linwood. And while I was in Linwood, there was a need. Gangs were going crazy. And from Compton to Inglewood to all these different places. So I did a video, and it's called Gangs Facts Every Parent Should Know. Why would I be the person to do this, is what I said. Because I lived it. Not as a gang member, I'm an academic. I ran. I tell you, ladies, there's nothing like a guy who can run faster than you. Nothing like a guy who says, somebody got to be behind to report what happened to the police. I'm not brave, but I tell you what, I'm going to be back there talking to the police to tell them what happened. That's not to say I'm not a man. It's just to say that I'm smart enough to know where to go. So, in my humbleness, let me say this to you. So God allowed me to make that video called Gangs Facts Every Parent Should Know. The sheriff's department, the police department in LA started using that videotape to train their people. Now remember, before anybody knew anything about gangs, the people that were in gangs or lived around gangs knew who they were. Why? That's your neighborhood. Know where you are, know where you live. Now, let's do some inspirational stuff to say this. That tape went a lot of places. That was in I don't remember now. It was a while ago. And I'm going to say this. It's influential. But it's humbling to understand that you can do all the things you want to do without ever having to say who you are or what you've done. People need to see who you are, not from your history so much, but from what you do. Amen. I have a philosophy that says, do the work first, complain after the work is done. Because while you're sitting up here doing all this complaining, ain't no work getting done. All these people that we have in these history books, every single one of them, black, they had to do the work before they could make history. If I could inspire you to do anything, it would be to say this to you. I don't care what color you are. Do the work first. You can't get to history without doing the work first. There will be people that will pull you down and say, no, you're doing this. They call that thing crabs in a barrel, where one black person is trying to get up here and do all this stuff, and then somebody's pulling them down. Somebody's saying something bad about them. There was a story this week, and I don't know if you guys heard about it, Gayle King and Kobe Bryant. Yeah. Well, that's the crabs. That's when somebody's, reaching high. There is nothing wrong about bringing back somebody's history because it's there. Let's go back again.
Thank you.
Now let's go to that side. We love to pray. We love to read. We love to worship. We love to invite. We love to give. All for the glory of God. Yes. I'm going to say this about everything. If it ain't for the glory of God, don't do it. Amen. History is full of people that didn't go in that direction.
That's right.
They didn't listen to what God had to say, and we ended up where we are. But thank God we have a Redeemer. Also, thank God that people listen to that voice inside of them. So, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and to a full extent, this guy named Nipsey Hussle. To another full extent, those persons who ever lost their life in the charge of God. And what is the charge of God? To tell other people about God. And we learned that this morning too. If you can't do anything else, go out and tell somebody else about God, and you will make history. Now, I like to always end by saying this. If you like what I had to say, and I hope it touched your hearts because it was very simple, and I didn't have enough time to go through all of these books, but these books are available. If you ever want to hide a secret, put it in a book because people don't read. vocal. We tell you here, and then you just got to pass it on to somebody else. I was going to end by saying this. This is how I usually end. Now, those of you who heard me speak when I came here about the homeless thing, you'll hear this. If you like what I had to say, good. My name is Perry Brents. But if you didn't like what I had to say, well, my name is Sheriff Spratton. My father is Harry L. Bratton. And you can blame him for that.